Phil Mickelson left for LIV. Rory criticized him publicly. When Dustin Johnson signed, Rory questioned his loyalty. When Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka followed, Rory positioned himself as the alternative, the player who valued tradition and legacy over guaranteed contracts. He attended player meetings, gave impassioned speeches, and literally shaped PGA Tour policy decisions through his role on the board. Rory McIlroy wasn't just defending the tour. He was the tour's human shield against LYFI's Saudi billions. That's why what just happened feels like a complete betrayal to everyone who believed in him. According to multiple sources, including respected insiders with direct knowledge of the situation, Rory McIlroy has been in advanced conversations with LIV Golf about a potential move. Not casual discussions, not exploratory talks. Advanced negotiations that include contract figures, equity stakes, and timeline discussions. The reported offer is absolutely staggering, somewhere in the range of $850 million, which would make it one of the largest contracts in professional sports history. But here's what makes this so much worse than just another player chasing money. Rory hasn't publicly acknowledged any of this. He's continued giving interviews where he talks about the importance of PGA Tour unity and competitive integrity. He's attended tour events acting like everything is normal while simultaneously negotiating with the league he spent years calling illegitimate. The duplicity is what's shocking people more than the actual possibility of him leaving. If you're stunned by this betrayal, smash that like button and subscribe, because what Rory did next is even more unbelievable. The timeline makes this especially damning. Just weeks ago, Rory gave an interview where he talked about how important it was for top players to stay loyal to the PGA Tour during ongoing negotiations with Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. He specifically mentioned that players leaving now would weaken the tour's bargaining position and hurt everyone who'd stayed loyal. He positioned himself as the guardian of tour solidarity, and the entire time he was saying those things publicly, he was apparently having private conversations with LIV about his own potential departure. PGA Tour officials are reportedly furious and feeling completely blindsided. Multiple sources describe emergency meetings held within the past 48 hours, with Commissioner Jay Monahan and other tour leadership trying to figure out how to handle the situation if Rory actually leaves. The panic isn't just about losing a star player, it's about losing the player who became the tour's most visible and credible defender. If Rory McIlroy, of all people, decides that LIV is the right move, what does that say about the tour's future and viability? Behind the scenes, players are reacting with a mixture of shock, anger, and vindication. Those who stayed loyal to the PGA Tour, partially because of Rory's passionate defense, feel betrayed and manipulated. One veteran player, speaking anonymously to a golf journalist, said that Rory convinced people to turn down massive LIV offers by appealing to their loyalty and integrity, and now he's considering taking the exact deal he told everyone else to reject. That's not just hypocrisy. That's deliberately sabotaging other people's financial opportunities while protecting his own. But players who left for LIV are having a completely different reaction. Bryson DeChambeau, who endured years of criticism from Rory for joining. LIV posted a cryptic message on social media that was clearly directed at the situation. He wrote, "Funny how principles change when the price gets high enough." The post immediately went viral, with thousands of comments interpreting it as Bryson taking a victory lap over Rory's apparent hypocrisy. Phil Mickelson, who Rory publicly criticized more harshly than almost anyone for joining LIV, gave an interview where he was asked about the reports. Phil's response was measured but cutting. He said that everyone has to make their own decisions based on their own circumstances, and that maybe some people are learning that the world isn't as black and white as they thought it was. The implication was crystal clear. Rory judged everyone else for doing exactly what he's now considering. What makes this situation even more complicated is Rory's relationship with Tiger Woods. Tiger has remained firmly aligned with the PGA Tour throughout the entire LIV conflict, serving on the policy board and actively working to strengthen the tour's position. Rory and Tiger have been publicly unified during this entire saga, presenting themselves as the tour's leadership partnership. If Rory leaves now, it doesn't just damage his own credibility, it potentially damages Tiger's as well by association. Reports suggest that Tiger reached out to Rory directly after hearing about the LIV negotiations, trying to understand what was happening and whether Rory was actually considering leaving. Sources describe the conversation as tense and emotional, with Tiger expressing disappointment that Rory would even entertain LIV's offer after everything they'd both said publicly. The fracture in their relationship, if it's real, represents one of the most significant shifts in golf's power dynamics in years. The fan reaction has been absolutely brutal and divided. Some fans are defending Rory, saying he has every right to maximize his earnings and that people change their minds when circumstances change. They argue that $850 million is generational wealth that nobody should be expected to turn down, regardless of what they said 3 years ago. But the majority response has been anger and accusations of hypocrisy. Social media is flooded with compilations of Rory's anti-LIV quotes paired with news of his current negotiations, the contrast making him look like either a liar or someone with no actual principles. What's driving Rory's apparent change of heart is the question everyone's asking. Some analysts suggest it's purely financial, that $850 million is simply too much money to refuse regardless of prior positions. Others point to the shifting political landscape, noting that the PGA Tour and Saudi Arabia's public investment fund are in ongoing negotiations themselves, which has blurred the moral lines that once seemed clear. If the tours are potentially merging anyway, Rory might be thinking, why not get paid while that process unfolds? But there's a darker theory circulating among insiders. Some believe Rory's experiencing genuine burnout from carrying the PGA Tour's flag for 3 years, dealing with constant media pressure, player criticism, and the weight of being everyone's moral compass. The emotional toll of that role, combined with watching players he criticized get richer while he defended a tour that hasn't always supported him publicly, might have finally broken his resolve. The most damaging aspect of this entire situation is that Rory hasn't addressed any of it publicly yet. No statement, no explanation, no acknowledgement that conversations are happening. The silence is deafening and makes everything worse because it allows speculation and anger to build without any counter-narrative. If Rory came out and explained his thinking honestly, even if people disagreed, at least there would be transparency. The secrecy makes it feel like he knows what he's doing is indefensible. What happened at Riviera wasn't just controversial. It was explosive, career-threatening, and the way Rory just handled it has players, officials, and sponsors asking the same terrifying question. Is the sport's biggest star about to blow up everything we thought we knew about golf's integrity? What did Rory actually witness that has him threatening formal action? Why are tour officials in emergency meetings trying to contain the damage? And how did one tournament victory turn into the most dangerous moment the PGA Tour has faced in years? Let's be brutally clear about what just happened at the Genesis Invitational, because the surface story and the real story are completely different. Jacob Bridgman, a relatively unknown player, came into Sunday at Riviera Country Club with a 6-shot lead and somehow held on to win his first PGA Tour title by a single stroke over Rory McIlroy and Kurt Kitayama. On paper, that's a dream breakthrough story. Young player overcomes pressure, survives a late charge from legends, claims his first victory on one of golf's most iconic stages. That should be the headline. That should be the narrative everyone's celebrating. But instead, the golf world is in absolute chaos. Because according to multiple sources, including respected golf journalist Dan Rappaport, Rory McIlroy told people close to him that he witnessed multiple rule violations by Bridgman during the tournament. Not minor infractions, not accidental mistakes, deliberate rule violations that potentially affected the outcome. And Rory isn't just complaining privately. He's reportedly preparing to formally present his concerns to the PGA Tour for official review and investigation. Let that sink in for a second. Rory McIlroy, one of the most respected voices in professional golf, a player known for integrity and sportsmanship, is essentially accusing another player of cheating. That word hasn't been used officially yet, but that's what rule violations with intent means. And if Rory's willing to go on record and trigger a formal investigation, it means he saw something he can't ignore or excuse. The specific allegations are devastating and detailed. First, Rory claims that Bridgman deliberately improved his lie during round 2 by pressing his club into the turf near his ball with excessive force multiple times before making his stroke. Under Rule 8.1 of the Rules of Golf, you cannot deliberately improve conditions affecting your shot. That includes your lie, your stance, or your swing area. If intent is established, that's a 2-stroke penalty per breach. 2 strokes. Bridgman won by 1. Do the math. The second allegation is even more surgical and damning. Rory claims that during round 3, Bridgman dropped his ball marginally outside the defined relief area, potentially gaining a slightly better angle. Or lie. We're talking millimeters here, but at this level, millimeters are everything. Well, that's the difference between a clean swing and a flyer lie. That's the difference between making birdie and scrambling for par. Relief procedures are extremely specific in professional golf, and even minimal deviation, if proven intentional, results in penalties that could alter tournament outcomes. If you're shocked by these accusations, smash that like button and subscribe, because this scandal is about to get even more explosive. Here's why this situation is so dangerous for the PGA Tour beyond just one tournament result. If the Tour investigates and finds violations, they have to assess penalties retroactively. That means Jacob Bridgman's first PGA Tour victory could be stripped away. The leaderboard would change, prize money would be redistributed, FedEx Cup points would be adjusted. A young player's breakthrough moment, celebrated by thousands and broadcast globally, would become a scandal that defines his entire career. But if the Tour investigates and finds nothing, if they clear Bridgman completely, then Rory McIlroy looks like a sore loser who couldn't handle getting beat and tried to take down a young player through allegations he couldn't prove. That destroys Rory's reputation as one of golf's most respected ambassadors and creates a toxic precedent where every close finish gets challenged with accusations and investigations. The PGA Tour is absolutely trapped. They can't ignore Rory's concerns because he's too prominent and the allegations are too specific, but they also can't rush to judgment without concrete evidence because they'd be destroying a player's career based on accusations. And every second they delay making a decision, the speculation and controversy grows exponentially. Behind closed doors, Tour officials are reportedly in emergency meetings trying to figure out how to handle this without creating permanent damage. Multiple sources describe the mood inside Tour headquarters as panicked and desperate. They're reviewing broadcast footage frame by frame, analyzing shot-link data, consulting with rules officials, and trying to determine whether there's any concrete evidence to support Rory's claims. But here's what makes this situation even more complicated and potentially explosive. Modern golf technology means every moment is captured in ultra-high definition from multiple angles. If Rory's allegations have any validity, the evidence will exist somewhere in thousands of hours of footage. But if the Tour finds that evidence and assesses penalties, they're admitting their real-time rules monitoring to failed completely. They're saying violations happened on camera, under their watch, and nobody caught them until after the tournament ended. That's a credibility crisis that could have massive implications for sponsor confidence and television partnerships. Companies pay millions to associate with the PGA Tour's brand of integrity and fair competition. If tournaments can be won through rule violations that officials miss in real time and only get caught when a competitor raises concerns days later, what does that say about the Tour's ability to police itself? Players are already choosing sides, and the locker room is fracturing in real time. Some veterans are defending Rory, saying if he saw something, he's obligated to report it regardless of how it looks. Others are furious with Rory, saying you don't destroy a young player's breakthrough moment with unproven allegations after losing by one shot. The divide is brutal, personal, and potentially permanent. Justin Thomas reportedly told teammates that Rory's handling of this was disappointing and set a dangerous precedent where every close loss could be challenged with accusations. Jordan Spieth was more diplomatic but acknowledged the situation was incredibly uncomfortable for everyone involved. The Tour's most prominent players are being forced to pick sides publicly, and their responses will define relationships and alliances for years. Social media has absolutely